Hi there, Emily Midgett here with you today from 6th Street Sundries, and today I have a watercolor project that I'm sharing using my new Magnolia Stamp Set from the April 2022 Pinkfresh Studio release. Now I designed this stamp set and it's such a beautiful individual floral stamp set. You've got a large magnolia bloom with some different styles of buds. And then one of the things that I really love about it is that the stamp is all one piece, so you stamp the entire image, all of the images in one fell swoop, and then you can die cut it also in one fell swoop because it's all one piece. I love that feature about the Pinkfresh Studio individual floral stamp sets. I think that's just such a time saver. So I'm stamping the Magnolia stamp set onto some Arches cold press watercolor paper, and I've used my favorite combination of the obsidian black pigment ink from Altenew and some iridescent or some pearlescent white embossing powder, which creates a really lovely charcoal pearlescent. It's a little bit less stark and intense than just doing regular black with clear embossing powder. So I'm going to do some watercoloring with the Holbein watercolors. These are artist grade watercolors. And for the first layer, I'm just gonna add some a light layer of some kind of, it's a very pale kind of yellow peach color. Magnolias, as we know, they are primarily white, but you can find different shades of magnolia. Some of them have like a really intense kind of mauvey maroon color. Some of them have just a hint of kind of a peachy pink in the center, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So the bulk of the flower is primarily a light pinky peach color. So we're going to add, I'm going to show you my trick for adding some extra brightness and highlights for that particular shade of magnolia today. So I'm just adding in the very center of the flower where the petals meet the center of the flower, I'm adding some of that very pale yellowy peach color as just kind of a base for the rest of my coloring. Now this next shade that I'm adding on the second layer, this is a mixture of kind of a deep magenta and some plum purple color. And I'm going to use this as this is the main color that you will see with this flower, with this shade of flower. I'm keeping the color concentrated towards the center where the petals of the flower meet the center of the flower. And I'm laying down that layer of color, that layer of intense color, cleaning my brush, dabbing it on my stamp chamois, and then using that damp paintbrush to kind of pull that color out away from the center. I keep the point of my brush pointed away from me, and I use that and pull the color out towards me. Because when you keep the brush pointed away, you can see exactly where the tip of that paintbrush is, and the dampness that you put on the paper from the damp watercolor brush the watercolor will seek that liquid, that moisture on the watercolor paper. So when you have that watercolor brush pointing away from you and putting down just a very light layer of moisture on the petal itself, that watercolor that you've laid down first will seek that moisture in that paper. So it creates a really nice smooth fade. So I'm just adding a little bit more intensity to certain areas, but basically this flower is done with these two shades, these two, the kind of peachy yellow color at the beginning, and then the kind of deep pink that we keep concentrated towards the center, keeping those top petals a little bit lighter than the ones in the back. So now this is my trick for adding a little bit more white, light, bright, how many more "ite" words can I come up with? This is going to help keep those petals looking dingy. This is this pale kind of lavender lilac color. I've diluted it quite a bit. I put it down on my ceramic palette, and then I add quite a bit of water to it. And I'm just adding a touch of that kind of pale purpley blue color. And I'm putting it on the very edge of the petals. And this helps to kind of brighten up that yellow undertone that we have from the original base peach layer. I'm just adding it in the areas where I did not actually put any color on the very edges of the petals. And that will help to create even more contrast between the petals that are behind and the petals that are on top, because we're adding that extra layer of that pale blue. That's going to help kind of intensify the contrast between the shadows and the light. So now we're going to work on the foliage. Now with this stamp set, I made sure to add a variety of different shapes and sizes of foliage because I wanted there to be a nice variety for you to be able to create all different kinds of shapes of bouquets and swags. So you've got one with lots of leaves, you've got one with just one large magnolia leaf, you've got a little trio, you've got some foliage on the buds themselves. So lots of different ways to add green color to your different bouquets. So I am using my basic foliage technique where I divide the leaves into two halves and I create each half as its own separate, almost like a petal, so that they each have their own shape and you can see the indication of the curve, the highlights, the shadows, because those petals, those two halves of the leaves are right next to each other. So now we've finished our watercoloring. I am going to die cut this in one fell swoop using that handy dandy one-piece die from the Magnolia suite. This product suite does come with layering stencils as well, and there are lots of fun techniques that you can use with that, but I love to watercolor, and I designed this set so that it would be fun to watercolor with that big bloom and all of the different sizes of foliage. So we're going to work with those today, but those stencils have so many beautiful projects with them on the Pinkfresh Studio blog hop. Now it's time to work on the card base. We are going to use the new intricate stitched ovals die cut background die. It doesn't actually cut all the way through, it just cuts kind of a really lovely stitched background. And we're going to also use a blanket stitched circle die, which I've die cut from some heavyweight vellum, just to kind of give a little bit of a smooth area for our sentiment, for sitting behind our sentiment. So I've arranged the Magnolia die cuts around that stitched circle die, and I'm adhering them with some pieces of foam tape, which I am overlapping the foam tape from both the watercolor die cuts and the stitched circle vellum die cut. With vellum, you have to be sneaky because the adhesive will show through the fairly translucent vellum cardstock. So you have to figure out a way to hide that adhesive, and I do that by hiding it behind solid die cuts. So I'm also adding the happy birthday sentiment, which I've created from the Fancy Script Words hot foil plates and dies, and I've created this one using the solid hot foil plate, so it's kind of the reverse. So I'm adding this sentiment die cut to our arrangement before it has been adhered down to our card base. And so the reason I do that, I'm going to hide a little bit more adhesive, a little bit more foam adhesive behind that sentiment, so we get a really nice, even, dimensional die cut. So we're just going to add one final element of shine today with some ballet slipper gems to just kind of fill in any of the blank spaces left behind on our Magnolia bouquet, and then we're finished. So lots of shimmer, lots of shine on this card. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something about some different watercoloring techniques. And if you liked this video, maybe give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And you can also always see lots more content as well as still photos of these projects up on my blog at emilymidgett.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.